Picture the scenario the preparedness community spends the most time on. A serious disruption. Extended. You have the firearm, you have the ammunition, you have the gear. Now the vehicle breaks down and nobody in your household knows how to diagnose it. The food supply begins to spoil and nobody knows how to preserve it. A family member develops an infected wound and nobody knows how to treat it beyond what is on the back of a Band-Aid box. The phone is dead and nobody can read a paper map. The gun did not fail, but the gun cannot fix the vehicle, preserve the food, treat the infection, or navigate the route. The skills that address those scenarios were common in the 1970s, are scarce today, and are generating almost no content in the preparedness ecosystem that spent a decade telling you what to buy. 5 skills, all ordinary in 1970, all more likely to determine your outcome than what caliber you chose. Here's what they did not tell you. The preparedness industry's product model requires that capability be purchasable. A skill cannot be linked in a video description. A skill cannot be unboxed. The content ecosystem has a structural incentive to define capability as equipment ownership and a structural disincentive to define it as knowledge, because equipment generates affiliate revenue and knowledge does not. The 1970s is the last decade in which a significant portion of the American population routinely practiced the skills on this list. Before personal computers, before GPS, before the outsourcing of practical knowledge to specialists that made not knowing these things survivable in normal times. The skills did not disappear because they stopped working. They disappeared because the infrastructure built around us made them unnecessary. That infrastructure is what a crisis disrupts. 5 skills. Starting with the one most immediately operational. One principle before the list. Equipment amplifies capability. It does not create it. A medical kit in the hands of someone who has never practiced wound management is a collection of supplies whose functionality is theoretical. Every piece of preparedness equipment assumes a knowledge baseline. The 1970s skills on this list are that baseline. The knowledge the preparedness industry has been assuming while systematically failing to build. 3 filters shaped this list. Breadth, widely distributed in the 1970s general population. Scarcity, genuinely rare by 2024. And substitution resistance, cannot be replaced by a purchased item in a crisis. All 5 pass all 3. Here we go. Skill 1, basic mechanical repair and vehicle maintenance. Vehicle maintenance is a professional specialty now. Modern computerized systems require diagnostic equipment and trained technicians. The days of working on your own car with basic tools are over. In 1975, roughly 70% of Americans performed at least basic maintenance on their own vehicles. Oil changes, brake pads, spark plugs, carburetor adjustment. As a normal household activity. In a grid-down scenario, the vehicle that breaks down determines whether a household can evacuate, resupply, or reach medical care. The computerized diagnostic systems that made DIY maintenance difficult are the systems most vulnerable to electrical surge. Older carbureted engines can be maintained with basic tools and mechanical knowledge in conditions where newer vehicles' electronics have failed. The mechanic you cannot drive to is the skill you should have built. The specific knowledge that matters most in a crisis is diagnostic, identifying what failed and why before attempting a repair. Modern training focuses on computer-assisted diagnostics. Pre-1980s training focused on sensory diagnosis. What does the engine sound like? What does the exhaust smell like? What color is the fluid beneath it? These frameworks apply to any mechanical system: generators, water pumps, small engines. A FEMA after-action analysis of Hurricane Katrina noted mechanical breakdowns of emergency response vehicles as a documented operational constraint in the first 72 hours, and field repair capability among civilian responders as a factor in which units remained operational. The automotive service industry's revenue model depends on consumers being unable to self-service. The preparedness industry does not address mechanical skill because there is no product to sell alongside the recommendation. Acquire a Chilton or Haynes manual for at least one household vehicle and read the maintenance chapters. Take an introductory small engine repair course at a community college, under $200, and service your generator yourself. The physical experience of disassembling and reassembling a mechanical system builds the diagnostic intuition that makes field repair possible under stress. Mechanical skill keeps you mobile. The next skill keeps you fed. Not for 3 days, not for a week, but for months, from whatever is available, without refrigeration or a functioning supply chain. It was taught in American high schools in the 1970s. It has been almost entirely removed from the curriculum. Skill 2, food preservation without refrigeration. Food preservation is a hobby for people with garden surpluses. It is not a survival skill because the supply chain handles food for most households. The average American household in 1970 contained at least one adult who could can vegetables and protein, dry or smoke meat, ferment vegetables for extended storage, and manage cool storage for produce. These skills were taught in home economics classes and practiced as a normal extension of household food management. In an extended disruption without refrigeration, every perishable food item spoils on its natural timeline. Meat in 2 to 4 days, dairy in 7 to 10, most produce in 3 to 14. Without preservation skills, a household's functional food supply compresses to whatever shelf-stable items it stored. With them, food that would otherwise spoil converts to shelf-stable form and extends the supply by weeks to months. The preservation methods common in the 1970s each work on a different mechanism, creating a redundant capability stack. Water bath canning uses heat and vacuum seal for high-acid foods. Pressure canning reaches temperatures required for low-acid foods, including meat. Fermentation uses salt and anaerobic conditions to create an acidic environment hostile to pathogens. No heat, no equipment beyond a jar and salt. Dehydration removes moisture to prevent bacterial growth and requires only airflow or sun. A household with competency across 2 or 3 of these methods can address the full range of preservation scenarios a disruption produces. Home food preservation cannot be monetized through the standard affiliate model. The Ball Canning Guide costs $12 and covers more food security capability than any emergency food product purchase. Start with fermentation. No equipment required beyond jars, salt, and vegetables you likely already have. Fermented vegetables are safe, nutritious, store for months without refrigeration, and the skill transfers across preservation contexts. Add water bath canning using the USDA's free tested recipes at the National Center for Home Food Preservation website. Practice before a disruption. The first batch will have learning curve failures that are inconvenient in normal conditions and potentially dangerous in a crisis. Skill 3. Wound care and basic home medicine. Medical care is a professional domain. Self-treatment of anything beyond the most minor injuries is both inadequate and potentially dangerous. The correct response to any meaningful medical situation is to seek professional care immediately. Before managed care created the assumption that any ailment requiring attention required a specialist, a significantly larger cross-section of the population managed minor to moderate medical situations at home as a first response. Wound cleaning, infected wound management with warm soaks and topical antibiotics, fever management, hydration therapy, minor fracture splinting. These skills did not replace medical care. They extended the window before professional care was required and addressed situations where professional care was not immediately accessible, which is the exact condition a crisis produces. Wilderness Medical Society research on medical outcomes in austere environments consistently identifies wound infection management as the highest leverage home medical skill. An infected wound identified early, cleaned aggressively with irrigation, covered appropriately, and monitored for systemic signs remains a minor wound. The same wound undertreated for 48 hours can develop into a limb-threatening infection. The knowledge that makes the difference is not advanced. Recognize early infection indicators, understand the difference between normal and abnormal wound progression, and intervene with available materials. This knowledge was broadly distributed in the 1970s through home nursing guides, Red Cross courses, and practical family experience. It is largely absent from the general population today. The medical profession's liability framework has pushed general health information toward consult a physician responses that are appropriate in normal conditions and useless in extended disruption scenarios. No preparedness content recommendation has ever linked to where there is no doctor. 3 resources. Stop the Bleed Training for Hemorrhage Control. Free, 90 minutes. A wilderness first aid course for the broader acute care skill set. 2 to 8 days from NOLS, SOLO, or REI Adventures. And Where There Is No Doctor by David Werner. Free download from the Hesperian Foundation. The reference manual for managing medical situations without professional support. Mechanical skill, food preservation, wound care. 3 skills that keep you operational, fed, and alive. The last 2 determine whether you can move purposefully and communicate effectively when the infrastructure that normally handles both has stopped working. Skill 4, navigation by map and compass. Navigation is a solved problem. GPS is accurate, reliable, and available on every smartphone. Paper maps are a legacy format. The ability to navigate by map and compass is genuinely redundant. In 1978, every licensed driver navigated by paper map as the baseline requirement for operating a vehicle in unfamiliar territory. That skill, once universal among adults who traveled regularly, has been almost entirely eliminated by GPS dependency in under 30 years. GPS infrastructure depends on satellite systems, ground networks, and device functionality subject to disruption. A sustained grid failure, an EMP event, deliberate satellite disruption, or simply a dead phone battery eliminates GPS navigation entirely. The person who cannot navigate by paper map cannot move purposefully to a secondary location or execute any movement plan requiring terrain they do not already know intimately. Map and compass navigation consists of three components: orienting the map to terrain using a compass, identifying your current position by correlating visible features with map symbols, and planning a route by measuring distance and accounting for terrain. The skill can be learned to functional proficiency in a single day of field practice. The U.S. Army teaches basic land navigation to every soldier in approximately 16 hours of combined classroom and field instruction. A civilian can develop equivalent functional proficiency from Army Field Manual FM 3-25.26, available free online, a topographic map, and a baseplate compass costing $20 to $30. The GPS industry generates revenue from the dependency it created. Preparedness content recommends backup GPS devices. Affiliate revenue, rather than map and compass skill, which generates none. Acquire topographic maps of your immediate area and emergency routes from the USGS store. Acquire a quality baseplate compass. Sunto or Silva, $20 to $30. Read FM 3-25.26 free online. Then, take the map and compass to a local park and navigate a planned route without using your phone. One afternoon produces more crisis-relevant navigation capability than any GPS device purchase. Skill 5. Radio communication and basic electronics. Communication is solved by cell phones. When the phone cannot connect, there is nothing else available anyway. Amateur radio is a specialist hobby unrelated to practical preparedness. In the 1970s, 22 million Americans used citizens band radio for everyday communication, and amateur radio licensing was growing steadily across the population. FCC after-action reports for every significant disaster event of the past 30 years document cell network saturation in the first 60 to 90 minutes of any event significant enough to cause simultaneous calling by the affected population. The household that can communicate on radio frequencies independent of cell tower infrastructure maintains situational awareness and coordination capability at exactly the moment when the cell network fails. Amateur radio operates on frequencies that can reach across cities, states, and continents depending on frequency selection. The FCC technician license, which provides access to local VHF and UHF frequencies sufficient for neighborhood and metropolitan communication, requires passing a 35-question multiple-choice exam. Study time for a motivated adult is 8 to 15 hours using free online resources. The license costs $15. A functional handheld transceiver costs $30 to $80. The ARRL handbook covers basic electronics troubleshooting that extends to any radio or electronic device. The skill builds from license to operation to troubleshooting in weeks, not years. Preparedness content recommends satellite communicators and mesh networking devices, subscription-based products with affiliate revenue, over amateur radio, which requires a license and a skill rather than a subscription and a device. Study for and obtain your FCC technician license using free resources at arrl.org. $15 exam fee. Purchase a Baofeng handheld transceiver for $30 to $40 and program it for your local NOAA weather frequencies and amateur repeaters. Join your local ARES group, Amateur Radio Emergency Service, which coordinates ham radio emergency communication with local emergency management. License, radio, and group connection together cost under $100. 5 skills: basic mechanical repair, food preservation without refrigeration, wound care and home medicine, navigation by map and compass, radio communication, and basic electronics. Every one of them was ordinary in 1970. Every one of them addresses a crisis scenario. The broken vehicle, the spoiling food, the infected wound, the dead phone, the saturated cell network, that a firearm has no relevance to. Not because firearms are wrong, but because the scenarios that will consume most of your crisis capacity are not scenarios a firearm solves. The preparedness industry defined capability as equipment ownership. Emergency management research defines it as knowledge breadth. The gap between those two definitions is the gap between what the industry has been building and what an actual extended disruption will require. The household that can keep a vehicle running, preserve 6 months of food,